What's up, everybody? It's Troy. Hope you're doing great. Today, I want to share with you this idea about understanding the competitive versus the cooperative or collective energy and comparison within that. And I'll unpack this here for a second. I want to make sure that you stick around because I also have this concept or something that I've been applying to life, and it's this concept of allowing ourselves to be a white belt in life. And I'll get to that in a second. But first, let me break down what it means to be competitive, right? There's one thing when you are in the act of sport or doing something that I like to play chess or I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and I've done other sports in my life, and there's moments and times where it's very fun to be competitive. And also, even in those times, it's important to understand that for one person to win, that means one person had to lose, right? So we need to connect to that energy and be like, man, I'm stoked that I won, but also that could have been me that had the loss this time, right? And so when you experience losses or setbacks in life, you understand what that feels like. It can be challenging. But if we can allow those moments to be our teacher, we go deeper into ourselves. We learn more about ourselves. We can unpack the lesson that is there, right? But if we just view it in our own frame, our own internal framework as, oh, I'm not enough because I didn't get this, right? Then we don't learn from those moments, right? And we get further away from the goal that we're actually pursuing. And let me play this out into life for us just a little bit, right? Something I'm learning to do, I'm still learning to do this, is to channel somebody's energy versus create a competitive wall. Okay. And let me kind of explain what this looks like. Right now I'm creating YouTube videos. I want to share my message. I've done a lot of my own growth and come a long way in my own healing journey. I've worked with a lot of different plant medicines and different shamans and breath work and all this stuff that I've traveled on this road for years, right? And I've learned so much through this, and I've unpacked and worked through so much of my shadow and these parts that of my life, and I guess it's almost like a lack of awareness. These things that like placate us or plague us in life, these wounds and these traumas that I didn't know I was carrying at one time, right? But I've worked through so much of that stuff, getting to a place where I feel great, right? Or felt great, still feel great, and getting to a place where I wanted to share that. But, doing videos and doing YouTube is something new to me. And, there's a learning curve to it. I'm still learning how to use my voice, how to stay relaxed in front of the camera. And recently, I was looking at someone else's YouTube who shares maybe some similar content or whatever. And they had a very developed channel, right? All these subscribers and stuff. And my first instinct was to create a wall. Okay. I wasn't aware of it at the moment. But what I was doing is I was like, oh, they have that because of X, Y, and Z. And I would like create these like, oh, they were just lucky or they timed YouTube right or whatever it was, right? And I kind of sat with that energy for about a week, and then I really looked at it deeper, and I was like, man, like I'm creating comparison. I'm taking all that internal, and what it actually is it's a projection. I'm projecting onto that person my own insecurities, my own feelings of incompetence or failure or not being enough, right? More growth to do, more work to do. That's all that is. That person is a mirror for me to go deeper into myself. That's it, right? When we switch to that frame versus like, oh, they're just lucky because of this or they just won that because of X, Y, and Z, right? Instead of actually looking and going, wow, that's really beautiful, I wonder what they've done that I'm not doing, the kind of internal work they've gone through, the challenges they probably had to overcome, the things they've had to face to get to this place. When we can do that, when we can switch that framework, then the whole situation, the whole story starts to change. And that turns into what I call channeling the energy. And so what I did is I was like, man, I'm going to allow this person to be my teacher. I'm just going to stop this comparison and I'm going to channel that energy. I'm going to feel that energy and go, man, like, what can I learn from this person? If they can do that, what can I learn from that? And if they can do this, how can I learn those things? And also knowing that I'm different, right? Like a lot of the comparison we create is comparison against against, right? Notice the word frame right there, even, right? Against, which is like a natural wall or barrier between us and another person, right? It's this frame that we build that creates separation. And I've gone through some experiences where, like, it's one thing, I use this example often before like a breathwork ceremony. I'm like, It's one thing to intellectualize something and say, like, we're all the same. You're like, all right, dude, we're all the same. I get it. I've heard that before, right? But it's a different thing when you feel that energy and you have this moment where you're like, oh shit, like we are all the same. We're on the same journey, birth, death, transition, whatever you want to call it. I refer to it as transition on the next stage. We're just traveling through here and we're traveling through it together. Together is the key word. But the framework of competitiveness, right, and comparison disallows that. We're no longer in this together. Someone is trying to win, and for someone to win, like I said earlier, someone has to lose. But is that what we want to create in life? Do we want to create a framework where people are winning and other people are losing? How about we all win? How about we all just move towards what feels best? How about we all move towards our own maximum potential? And it's going to be unique to each of us. Some of us are going to be very good at this thing, while some of us are going to be very good at that thing. And we need that as a collective society, right? So letting down this framework of competitiveness, of comparison. So going back to this, story of the YouTuber, watching some of his videos, and my initial thing was comparison, separation. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to see it. Creating some judgments, right? And now I'm back in my own space, and here I am, doing my thing, moving along, and then one day going like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I can learn from this person. Changing that entire framework, going deeper inside of myself, seeing where some of those blockages are, because that's what they are. They're like blockages. They're things that get put on us through society, through culture. And I have this little meditation I do, and maybe one time on one of these videos, I'll actually lead you guys through it. But essentially what it looks like is going into this meditative state, right? Getting very into my body, kind of going inward, feeling my body, and then asking myself these questions. And one of the questions I asked myself was like, where did I first feel like I had to be competitive and I wasn't enough? I wasn't enough in that moment. And for me, what came back was this moment. I was like, 7 to 10 years old. I played football. I had a very, very wild and crazy coach, super aggressive, like the type of coach that today, like back then, barely was accepted, and this is 30 years ago almost, right? Barely was accepted, but today would be all over social media. Like no one would allow this guy to coach. I played quarterback. When I throw an interception, he would pull the arm hairs out of my arm and yell at me and like berate me. And I looked at that and I was able to feel that energy and be like, oh shit. Like the message I was receiving in that moment was like, you have to be perfect. You have to be better than other people, right? And if you're not perfect, then you're losing. If you're not better, then you're losing, right? And so really unpacking that and going like, man, no, dude, like I was just out there to play. We're all out there just to play. It's out there to learn and grow. I'm not going to the NFL, right? And even if I was, okay, still playing, still learning, right? Still making a life out of that. And so I unpacked some of that and just sat with that energy and realized that was a blockage. That was a blockage that got created when I was young, and it created a story in my mind, right? And remember, we are not our minds. It's just a tool. It's just a part of us. We are not our minds. And so I removed that blockage energetically, physically, emotionally, intellectually, all that, right? And just understanding it. And that's all we have to do when we remove a blockage is just understand a little bit, see where it came from, feel it. You have to allow yourself to feel it to heal it. That's a little, something I picked up, right? You have to allow yourself to feel it to heal it. And so in that framework, I started to change the dynamic, right? I started to go, man, like, I don't have to be competitive anymore. I'm not on the football field competing against somebody in a sport. In that moment, whatever. Okay, maybe that was needed in some sort of way to get the win, but whatever. Who freaking cares? The bigger thing was just to be out there to play, right? And in life, we're not competing. We're just moving through things. Our culture likes to create that environment because it placates the, competitive reality of business, of commercialism, consumerism, right? My product's better than your product. You should buy this one. Or if you don't have this, if you don't have the fancy new car, like just watch a Toyota commercial or something, right? It's like people are so happy driving this new car. And if you don't have a brand new Toyota or Lexus, then what are you doing with your life, right? Like let's learn to look at these things, look at the realities that's really going on, the messages that are actually being sent to us. Because if I can create that reality for you, that you're not enough because you don't have a car or you don't make enough money or you don't look a certain way, then you're going to feel lack. And when you feel lack, I can start to control you. I can start to manipulate you. And so then you feel the lack and you're like, oh, I have to do something. I have to change. We get that fear of missing out, the FOMO. Oh no, life is Not enough because I'm not doing this thing. Bullshit, right? Like fake framework, okay? Just see it for what it is. They're trying to get your dollar. They're trying to manipulate you. They're trying to control you, right? So removing some of those blockages gets us back into ourself, right? And so for me, as this began to change, and again, this is fairly recently, I think there's a lot of areas where I had done this, but there was some areas where I still had a blockage, okay? And so I started to remove this, and then now this person can be my teacher. Be my teacher in two ways. One is internally, right? By allowing them to see, why am I comparing myself? Why am I creating judgments? What is that about me that I need to change? Like, how beautiful is that? Like, what a different framework, right? Because now that person becomes my teacher, regardless of the situation, regardless of who they are. They become my teacher. They can develop me, help me to expand and grow and stretch my boundaries, right? And also, now I can learn from them from an external standpoint. I can go, okay, what do they do? What are their techniques? What are the things they do to connect to their audience and so forth, right? So internal framework begins to change. And also now I can watch the external framework. And it's almost like a video game, right? When we kind of realize these things, it's like beating the level in a video game. Like, oh, now I beat this boss, now I can go to the next level, right? And so be on the lookout for those things in your life where, you might have a blockage, where you might be able to upgrade or go up a level, right? And I don't mean level in like comparison, like people are better than other people, because we all have this shit all across the board in different variety, different aspects of our life, right? And we're just moving through these things. That's all we're doing, is we're just traveling. I feel like, life and time, right, which is a man-made created thing, right, is time 9 to 5, 24 hours in a day, whatever, right, is a linear progression. But I feel like the higher calling is to have this vertical progression, right? And a vertical progression looks like understanding ourselves, understanding our blockages, understanding where we are in our own way. Like for me, anytime I'm frustrated in life or I feel stuck or something like that, it's always me who's in the way, my own way. It's me. It's me. It's nothing external, right? It's an external mirror that I need to go now inward and see what is it internally that I'm disallowing from myself, right? That I need to work with, that I need to heal, that I need to let go. And again, guys, that's why it's so important to be doing, the little things, the healing work, the meditation, the, internal connection, getting in nature, allowing everything to be our teacher from an internal standpoint. And I know that might sound weird. And for some of you, like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Like internal work and all this. Because I remember being like that. I remember being like, what do you mean internal? Like, I'm like, this is my reality, what I see. And I also remember thinking, like, what do you mean I need to heal? Like, heal what? Like, I'm fine. I'm good. But I wasn't good. I was holding a lot of like ego construct. And when we're holding ego construct, it's so easy to feel pain and feel suffering because the ego is like this external construct, right? It's like building a car without an internal engine, internal operating system, right? And that car can just fall apart so easily. It's like if somebody says, hey, that car you built, that red color is really gross. We're like, oh God, oh no. Because in that moment, we are the car, right? We are the red. But when you go inward, when you have an inner reality and someone says, that red paint on your car, again, I'm using car as a metaphor for our external reality, our external ego, right? They point at something on the car, yeah, that's really ugly. But if you have an internal framework, you're like, okay, it's just is what it is. Like my looks, my appearance, they just are what they are, right? Like I don't do a whole lot about that. I try to eat good. In my last video, I talked about I like to eat good because it raises my vibration. It raises my frequency. It helps my mind stay open to great ideas and better realities, right? I like to work out because it feels good, right? And also, I work out in a way that kind of feels playful. I'm not trying to like win anything right now. Been there, done that stuff, and it's exhausting over a period of time being competitive, right? And so I want to bring this to this one powerful last point here, okay? So as we let go of this external framework of competitiveness and comparison, and we change it to channeling, that's what I want you to really think about, right? Changing that when you see somebody to channeling their energy, right? Like, man, I want to channel some of that energy. Not like I could be like them, but that's a beautiful quality that I like to adapt into my life, right? Like if you're watching me and you're just comparing yourself, we're creating walls between each other. You're not going to hear anything I'm saying, right? You're literally not going to hear anything I'm saying. And I hope there's a few things that you could take away, right? So hopefully you can hear a few things, But let go of that comparison. We don't need to be like somebody else. There may be qualities that we'd like to adapt and allow ourselves to grow, but understanding that we're unique in our own way. And that's what makes us beautiful, right? Is the uniqueness of who we are. And also, in the same note, the collectiveness within that, right? That's how it works, right? We don't need a bunch of, replicas, right? Let's robot shit, right? We need a lot of unique individuals who understand a collective mentality that will really move us forward as individuals, as tribes, and a collective whole, okay? And I'm getting to that last point, right? So the last point is, when we get there, right, when we start to understand that, there's a beautiful gift in that. It allows us to allow ourselves to be a white belt, okay? And I want to break that down. And, those of you who are familiar with like martial arts, white belt is like your beginning belt, okay? Someone who practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm not a black belt yet, brown belt at the moment, won't be long before I'm a black belt, right? But I've gotten there by, doing this for 9 years, right? Multiple times a week, showing up consistently, showing up. And I remember being a white belt. I remember going there, and I'll tell you the story. Like my first day, I was a pretty athletic dude. I did other sports, used to box, play football, all this stuff, wrestled. So I'm like, oh, dude, I'm going to freaking dominate these guys. And I go in, I remember my first 2 rolls. That's what we call rolls, like sparring. And did pretty good. I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Next roll was against a purple belt. In jiu-jitsu, that's about like halfway through the belts. You got to be very good to be a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, there's only 5 belts, and it takes a while to move through each belt. So a developed purple belt is dangerous. They're good. And I remember this guy, I was like, hey, you want to roll? And he takes off his glasses, and he's like, sure. Sets him down. I'm like, dude, I'm going to mop this dude. And boom, puts me in a triangle. It's a certain kind of choke, right? Triangle, and just starts submitting me over and over. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, right? Mind blown. And in that moment, I remember thinking, right? I was like, man, like, I could just leave right now, protect my ego, right? And be like, okay, I'm still tough, dude, or whatever. At the time, that's how I kind of thought, right? And never do this again and walk away with that framework, that frame, right? Or I could be like, damn, I got to learn this. I'm curious. Like, how did that guy get to that space? And so I allowed myself to be the white belt. And I went through 6 months of what felt like pure chaos, just getting flipped around, tossed around, didn't know what I was doing. And then pretty soon one day I remember going like, okay, I'm like not getting submitted all the time. I'm like surviving a little bit here. And then one day being like, man, I just like submitted a guy. And man, I just submitted someone else. And then one day, bang, there's your promotion, blue belt. Stick with that for a while. Boom, purple belt. Boom, brown belt, right? Boom, stripes on the brown belt, okay? So what does that tell us about life? If we, what I think happens, right, is that we become black belts at different things in life, right? Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's, just maybe it's your friend group, right? Maybe you're very comfortable within that friend group. We could call that being a black belt within that friend group. Or your certain type of work you do. It's easy. I've kind of mastered this. I'm a black belt, right? And then what happens is it becomes very difficult to allow ourselves to be a white belt in other situations. So think about that, right? So we're good at certain things, and then when we feel that, the stretching of a boundary, that's what it is. We're stretching parts of ourselves, right? We're stretching our comfort zone, okay? And when we feel that, right, it's very easy to go like, oh, I just want to push back to my safety spot. I want to stay a black belt. But when that happens, we cut off the opportunity to move through other areas in life where we could experience something unique and new and could become a black belt that would change our reality, right? So I remember that like with social media. I remember thinking like, man, I got to start putting out some content. I'm doing, all this breathwork stuff, and it's really cool, and people are getting so much out of it. I got to share it on social media. And I remember like posting stuff and be like, oh God, like, wow, that was cringy, or dude, that sucked. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about or what I'm doing. I'm feeling clunky in that. But then remembering, allow yourself to be a white belt, Troy. Allow yourself to be a white belt. And over time, it's gotten better. Maybe I'm a blue belt at it, right? But it's in process. And something to take away with this is, in lieu of perfection, let go of perfection and instead put in progress. Allow yourself just to be in progress. Let go of perfectionism, right? Something I still have to work through. That was a big one for me. Go back to when I was playing quarterback, coaches pulling on my arm hairs because I threw an interception, right? Talk about perfectionism, getting beat into me, okay? So I've had to remove a lot of that and just allow myself to go, dude, that suck, and just feel that embarrassment in the moment. Feel that energy of like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. Everyone thinks I'm awful. And they're not, right? Because most people are thinking about themselves. That's what I have to remind myself, right? But and also what happens is now, okay, I can grow because I can just feel it and go, okay, where's the blockages within me? Where do I feel like I have to be perfect? Why do I feel like I have to be perfect? Let's let that go. Let's keep moving forward. Let's keep moving forward because it feels good to express myself. It feels good to share. I know I've got some stuff that can help, right? Let me get it out there. Let me move forward, right? Allowing ourselves to be a white belt once again. So what is it in your life? Maybe it's business, right? Maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's social media, maybe it's meeting the girl, right? You're in a comfortable situation, but it's not the reality that you want. Maybe it's, whatever, something at your work, you've mastered where you're at and you want the next challenge, right? Allow yourself to be the white belt. So ask yourself, right? Where can I be the white belt? And by being the white belt is going to change my reality. Let it happen, let it unfold, and one day you'll be a black belt. So I love y'all. Thanks for tuning in, man. I'm sending you guys so much freaking love. We're in it together, right? Hope you feel that energy. We're in it together. And until next time, y'all, peace.